Hello and greetings. My name is Guillaume Carl. I am the Grand Chief of the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. Tonight I'm taking a few minutes before we begin to explain to you what we're doing, why we're doing this, and basically there's a reason for communicating, and every way that we've tried to communicate before has been unsuccessful. The media has filtered what we had to say. They've actually just given you a little part to create a doubt on your identity and your ability to be who you are in your personal and family, collectivity and community development. So when I'm telling you I'm the Grand Chief of the Government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada, we will explain to you, to start with, the beginning of the Confederation, why it was created, and why it's so proud to be able to represent the people that want to be represented. For the ones that are bilingual, you will see that there's a French version to this and an English version. The English versions may vary a bit, but it should be kind of close together, because it is important to tell you that there are many questions that are coming about in the actual insecurity that has been created, for example, by the CBC Radio Canada false report. In that report, everybody, or many people, I shouldn't say everybody, let's not put everybody in the same bag, got a bit insecure in the fact that they have their cards, and they did not understand why they're carrying cards. So the beginning is the fact that I was elected in a provincial arena, which was called the Native Alliance of Quebec, and the Native Alliance of Quebec were briefed, the whole Grand Council there was briefed at the fact that we could not be an association. We have to be a government, because in the kit, and I'm going to be presenting to you this kit right away, to be able to inform you at following exactly what we're saying, and that what I'm telling you is based on the truth and only the truth. Because if together in our relationship that we are establishing and communicating together, we are not able to have the truth, or somebody tries to bring insecurity with lies, basically these things have to be corrected. And as soon as they're corrected, you're going to know that the person that's giving you false information, you will not be able to listen to him, because at the end of the day, we require the truth. So the government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada has created a kit. We call this the General Information Kit. It has the logo, and it has the word mentioning government. Why is it that, contrary to the Native, for example, Alliance of Quebec, we are called a government? Because in the resolution of the United Nations that is in the kit, it says in Article 3 and 4 that we will be governing ourselves. People didn't think about that fact because we just sort of grew on the planet. Because I need to share something important with you, and this importance goes in the different presentations to come, to be able to inform you of who you are, why you are there, what are the customs, the practices, how do we interpret what is due to us, for example in the Canadian Constitution, and why some people are trying to create some insecurity with you at telling you that we're not recognized. It is important for me to be able to show you that that recognition goes beyond my thinking. It goes hand in hand with a Government of Canada's document that says that we are the government of the Confederation of Aboriginal People, and that there was a modification. And that modification starts with the fact that when I was the Grand Chief of Quebec in 2005, I was elected the Grand Chief of the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Quebec, and then I was elected 1 year later the National Grand Chief. I didn't appear on the planet and nobody knew what I did. But the fact is on 24 communities that was in Quebec, 21 communities have abandoned the Native Alliance of Quebec because they were an association to finally prepare themselves in the preliminary phase and becoming the first Aboriginal government in Canada and perhaps in the world. In the Article 3 and 4, of the laws regarding Native people, Indigenous people, call them Aboriginal people, whatever you want. These laws were written and they were accepted by 99% of the world. The only country to not accept those rights that were voted globally, because it was at the United Nations resolution, was Canada. And in 2016, on May 2016, Canada has adopted to recognize this resolution without any modifications. Everything I'm telling you is in the kit. And the reason that it's in the kit is because finally we are able to take the technology that is brought to us, to put it in a document that's back to back, and in the document, when I show you the documents, inside you can say put arrows. The reason for the arrows was many people found it a bit complicated to understand what's in the book at reading this. So, as the Grand Chief, I told the Grand Council of Chiefs, I said, we have to find a way to communicate to our people in a very understandable way what is part of these people. And when we go through the kit, if we go through a kit, you're going to find in this kit the Canadian Constitution is there, the actual Royal Proclamation that actually brought the Aboriginal people to be protected beyond the protection that Canada basically has tried to put at telling you, because you're off reserve, you have no rights and you're not Aboriginal. And the fact is, it is the opposite. Why? Because in the kit again, there's the decision that was brought out in April 2016 that said Indians on reserve that are called status Indians, Indians off reserve that are non-status Indian or Métis are no longer non-status Indians. The Métis, the Indians, the non-status Indians, they're all Indians and they all have the same rights. Obviously, living on a reserve and living off a reserve, no need to explain to you, there's a very big development initiative that is brought with that. It's not the same treatment, not the same chance. However, the Confederation does not, or the government of the Confederation does not discriminate against a guy whether he lives on or off a reserve. We're all Aboriginal, and these Aboriginal rights are recognized whether you're on or off a reserve. If we recognize the right of a Sikh to come to Canada and have his rights, why would we ignore the rights of the Native people that were here before anybody? So having said all this, many people called me following Radio Canada with a lot of mega questions, and I said, you know, there's so many questions. If this question emanates from you, sorry for the accent, if it emanates from you, it emanates from a whole bunch of people. We have to find a way to address your questions and giving you with precision an answer that we can actually put a document to it and show you at the end of the day that you're not less, you're not worse, you're not best of anybody, we're all equal. That phenomena is very important because I'm referring back now to the truth. Lying is something you bring with you. When you pass on, you will not bring the car, the house, the clothes. You will bring your accomplishments, whether they were good or bad, they follow you, and you will be looking at what you were to see where you're going. And for me, that's important to tell you because the preparation in where you're going, the younger it starts, I guess the best success you can probably have at getting there. So, to explain to you a bit what happened in Canada, we should not be surprised after 400 years of residential school, everything that's tied to, example, the declaration of all the documents that were lost proving who you are. But where were these documents from? Who were they written from? Why were they destroyed? Because they did not want you, the off-reserve people, to be able to show who you really are. In other and future interviews, we will be looking at the difference of the guy that was on reserve and the guy that's not, or the lady, obviously, the people living on and off reserve. What has brought the wedge between the people when they were all together? Because before the arrival of the Europeans, there was no reserve. You know, many people claim, they said, well, our land was not ceded. And I say to everybody, somebody steals my coat, I'm not going to call the police and say, well, I didn't cede my coat. I'm going to say, somebody stole my coat. This land was stolen, and this land we want back. And this is why the resolution of the United Nations is very important, to be able to bring everybody together at getting what is ours and what it was stolen. Obviously, some people are very scared of us, but you know, people shouldn't be scared of ignorance. If they're scared of ignorance, means they need to learn. They need to share with us. And I did not share the next thing I'm going to share with you in English, because the person said it in English. I'm going to respond directly to it. In interviews, some people have asked me, so who do you represent? And I said, you know, I represent anybody in need, especially if he's Aboriginal. If it's a Chinese person that's running into some serious issues and he calls me, I will not let him down, because at the end of the day, he's a brother. However, having said that, the person that came on an interview and said, well, you know, he claims he represents everybody. Well, I don't claim that, but anyway. And he says he doesn't represent me. And I need to share something very important with you. The person that doesn't want to be represented, wants to be alone, live on his own planet with 4 little pompons across the planet and be alone there, that's his problem, his prerogative, and what he wants. However, that does not construe in any way or bring shadows against the 50,000 members that we have that have a card because they want to be represented. Let's not be here beating around the bush. If you don't want to be represented, if you're not part of the Confederation, and you don't want us to help you if you're drowning in a canoe, well, that's okay with us. We can live with that. We'll see you go down and that's it. However, if you yell out because you need a hand, we will be there. So, now I'm going to be touching, why are we a confederation? Why was the name Confederation of Aboriginal People used? And that's going to be my last part today that I'm going to be sharing with you, because next week we're going to be developing the reputation of the Confederation. Why are people join with us and why some people are afraid of us? One. Number two, what happened? How was it created to have some status Indians and not status Indians? But for now, let me explain to you where we're from. So the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. In the kit, I've put the articles of the Constitution that touches us directly. And before I tell you of any name, I'm going to tell you something. Article 52 of the Canadian Constitution. Why do I talk about that? Because Article 52 says the supreme law in Canada is the Constitution of Canada. I don't have to start beating around the bush and going to court to say, well, the Constitution of Canada is good or not. It's the supreme law, and it says in there, it renders inoperative any law that comes in conflict with it. That is important because your rights by the Canadian government are recognized in Article, for example, 35. 35 gives out the definition. The definition of Aboriginal people includes Indian, Métis, and Inuits. And I stop you right there because it says the definition of Aboriginal people of Canada. So the Confederation, in an annual meeting, a foundation meeting, an annual meeting obviously because it was the first meeting, said if the Constitution of Canada is the supreme law in Canada, and within that Constitution it already says Aboriginal people of Canada includes Indian, Métis, and Inuits, and point 1 says, and their rights are recognized and reaffirmed by the Constitution of Canada. So we said, what does the word Confederation mean? The word Confederation means the formation of a government. So the Aboriginal people of Canada has formed in a foundation meeting and put in front of their government Confederation, because the word Confederation comes from the base, so it's the government. So we are now called the Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada. And in 2005 on our website it was said, we are at the preliminary phase at creating the first Aboriginal government of Canada. Following that development, which did not take from 1763 to 1867, and I named those two dates because in 1763 was the agreement between the French and the English to stop fighting, and they went from 1763, which Canada was a province of England, and from there to 1867, which is more than 100 years, created a government. It's not going to take us 100 years to do that, but to come back. So now that we started and we introduced to the government of Canada, because the government of Canada is it's a foreign government to us, but it's still governing a part of Canada, we informed them what we're doing, why we're doing it, what is the work and the job of the Confederation to defend in all instances your rights as Aboriginal people. Very important, because you cannot get the word Confederation of Aboriginal People of Canada unless you can justify what you're doing. Following that, in the kit, there's the resolution of the United Nations that say, Article 3 and 4, that we are able to govern ourselves. Why is that important? Because before the Europeans got here, we were governing ourselves. Who gave them the right to think that we can't do it? 1. 2. The fact that in 2007, that resolution was passed, and up to 2016, there was only one country in the world, on the planet, that did not adhere to the resolution of the United Nations, and guess who it was? Canada. And I've written a whole bunch of letters to the Queen, to the UN, to the Government of Canada, to the Governor General, to tell them that those rights have to be introduced in Canada, because who is Canada to debate whether they're going to interpret these positively or negatively? So, in May of 2016, which is confirmed in the kit with the picture of the minister, Canada said that they will adhere to this resolution without any modifications, the way exactly it is. So your rights are now recognized from the United Nations to Canada. You have to know these rights because there's 13 pages of them, and they describe discrimination, they describe your land, they describe your ability to have economical development and to be introduced in any affairs that bring to the Native people with their representative of the first Aboriginal official government recognized by the Government of Canada. All this is being brought to you, and the last thing I want to do to you is snowball you with a whole bunch of information. I am inviting you officially, as your Grand Chief, to ask you, please call our office. Our office is 819-592-1313. 819-592-1313 to get this kit. Because in the future, I'm going to be doing every week a presentation like I'm doing to you tonight, and we're going to be using the kit to go and to explain to you where we are. Why is this information so important? Because most of all this information, I would say 90% of it, is from the Canadian government. It's from the UN. It's from the international bodies that recognize your rights as special people. Never go think that because you're Native, you're not special. In yourself, you have something that differs from others. So, second thing I'm asking you. So the first thing is to get a kit. Call the office because they have a whole bunch of boxes printed. The second is I need you to call your families and people of interest to be able to come and listen to this presentation. I am not going to stop this until we're at the end. What does that mean, being at the end? It means that until I was able to denounce to you what is being done, why it was done, and why it has to change. The unity of our people has to come, and I believe this is the way we're going to do it. So, as the Grand Chief, and also as the carrier of the sacred feather and a pipe carrier, I want to thank you for being there. I'm hopeful that you understand the seriousness and importance of what we're doing, and I will see you in 1 week with another one, part of what we do, and to be able to inform you on what is our rights, who we are, what we are, and why we are what we are. Until then, you take care. May the Creator all protect you and bring health to you. Chimagwech. Thank you very much.